Good morning, HAA. Hi, this is Susan Hinckley. I am here today to introduce Deb and Karen, Deborah DeRouen with Designs by Holmes, and Karen
Hello.
Nelsen with ALN Apartment Data. Both of these ladies have some experience with Zoom, and they're going to help you out today. We're going to have a presentation, and then you'll have the opportunity for questions. But certainly, if you have a question, a burning question, put it in the chat, and we will do our best to answer it. All right. Take it away, Karen.
All right, good morning, everybody. I hope you are having a wonderful Wednesday, and hopefully you are seeing a document up on your screen. And actually, we will be emailing this out shortly after the webinar so that you can have this for your notes. Now, as we're looking at our toolbars or our information, you can kind of see some basic toolbar at the bottom of your screen, and we're going to touch on that as well. Please note that this document originally started with our HAA president, Clay Hicks, and Amanda Sherbondi, because they were doing some best practices for the board of directors. And we were able to take their information and build on it from our PSC chair, Laura Lestis, so that we could have these resources for you. We're going to start off first with just some basic information of attending a meeting, starting a meeting, and then my partner on the other side there, Deborah, is going to go into some more detail about meetings and making it fun. So we're doing a little of the practical stuff and then more making sure we're getting the content for you and your meetings as well. Notice up at the top, when you're attending a meeting, you can always download the Zoom client. Very easy to do from zoom.us. As we move forward, you'll notice that there's plugins. If you're just joining a meeting, you can either click on the link, because many times it's sent directly through your Outlook, or you can go directly to the website and click on Join a Meeting. So very easy to use. If you're calling in from a phone, note that you will want to use *6 to mute yourself. And if you're on the computer, you can always use the mute little button. As we go down, you'll see that a couple things to remember is your system will work much better if you've closed all your other applications. Otherwise, you may have a little delay or lag in your voice or your video. When you start any webinar, you'll note that you are automatically muted. And you'll also note across the bottom of your screen that your toolbar, there's several different options here. So real quick, everybody go ahead and click on the reactions button and let's see what you get. Is everybody waving? Excellent. You'll also note down at the bottom, you can click on the chat. So if you want to send us a note, great. And then you can also click on participants and it'll show you who else is in the meeting for you. Now, as you're moving down, you'll note that you can see multiple people. And if you're looking at the top of your screen, you'll see there's a little button. There's a flat button, there's a little square, and then there's two kind of rectangles on top. If you click on that, it's going to show you not only just one of your people, but then you can see the whole group. Moving down, you may want to go ahead and set up an account. And this is where you can have a free account or a paid account. And the key thing to look at here is just making sure you turn all your features on. One of the things that you'll notice is as you log in, you'll see settings is on the left side. And here you can go ahead and turn on, because you'll probably want to go ahead and use video, not just audio. And so here's a list of all the items that you're going to want to make sure that you have on. And when you're looking at it, it'll go ahead and have these little on-off buttons on the right. And if it turns on blue, then it's on. And here's a few more. The other great thing is there are some great video tutorials online. You'll notice if you look on the left side, it'll say video tutorials, and there are a lot of them in there. Very great information. They're all really short, to the point, tells you what to do. When you're ready to start scheduling a meeting, you've got a couple options. And we saw that a minute ago where you could just log in directly to the meeting, or you could send out a calendar invite. So notice on the screen, you can see schedule a meeting circled, but I really like this Outlook plugin because then it automatically goes into your Outlook. And when you're ready, you just click on the button and it does it for you. However, you do need to make sure you have your parameters set up in advance, and then it's just very, very easy. You can see you go ahead and title your meeting, you put the time. The good thing to go ahead and look at is meeting ID. You're going to want it to generate automatically. Early in the Zoom experience after this COVID-19, a lot of people were using the personal meeting ID, which is kind of a stagnant number. And there were some crazy people logging into other people's webinars and seeing very unusual, not necessarily flattering items on their screens. So this is where you do want to generate a new ID for every webinar so you don't have any surprises. As we go down, all of these things, you go ahead and set up like the list we saw earlier, and it makes it very, very easy. Hit save. Moving on down. If you don't have it in Outlook, once you save your meeting, you can add it to a Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, or Yahoo Calendar. As I mentioned, I love having it in my Outlook. So when I open up a meeting in general, notice that it says schedule a meeting, and it automatically populates all that detail in the meeting for you. Very, very easy. And then you just invite all your friends. When you're ready to host the meeting, you can just log in or click on the link. And then you'll note that you have a toolbar. Slightly different toolbar from the participant toolbar you're seeing today. Few more options. You still have your reactions. You get to share your screen, chat, all those same things. So it just looks a little bit different. Once again, you'll notice on the left, you're always muted when you start. So you may be talking to yourself until you remember to unmute yourself. Great thing we saw a few minutes ago. On that toolbar, you can click on participants, see everybody listed. Zoom chat, you can see everybody listed. And we already tried the thumbs up and clapping. So that's very easy to use, fun to see. When you're ready to share your screen, you click on the share the screen. You'll notice all my screens came up, so I can just choose which one and then hit share, and there you go. Notice that your toolbar goes with you. And a lot of times I've got two screens. I'll put my toolbar on my other screen so it doesn't block my view. When you're ready to wrap it up, you can just hit stop share, then end meeting, and then you are all done. So those are the basics. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Deb, and she's going to tell you a little bit about preparing for your meeting and some specific setups. So Deb, it's yours.
All right, guys. So I've been in the virtual meeting world for a few years, and it's a very interesting world, and it changes a lot, and there's a lot of do's and don'ts, and there can be a lot of embarrassing things. Let's see. Make sure, I always want to make sure everyone, when you set up your account, get comfortable with it. Make sure that you go in and set up your profile completely. Make sure that you put your picture in there. Make sure that everything is accurate and correct. And to make yourself more comfortable, get your Zoom account set up. Go have Zoom with your friend. You can do the Zoom happy hours, just hang out meetings, and play with all the features. Play with the screen shares, play with your mute button. There's a lot of different features in here. And so for the sake of time and for this just being a one-on-one, we're trying to keep it pretty simple. But some of the things that I like to point out is that make sure that you're always early to your meetings. Always be 15 minutes early. The problem with technology is that it's always changing and you never know what's going to happen. We could literally go dark in the middle of this webinar and then all feel like it's a complete disaster, but the internet could go out. So cut yourself some slack. So be early and make sure that everything works and it's all very dependable. Always, always make sure that you get on early. There are a couple of buttons that I like to make sure that everybody knows about. That would be turning your camera off and on, and muting and unmuting yourself, because the most embarrassing things and the best Zoom fails are when people do not know about their mute buttons and their video buttons. And you can just Google Zoom fails on the internet and get a slew of examples of why these things are important. So always make sure, when I do a Zoom meeting, I always like to make sure that I maybe sometimes have like a hook or something to get started. And maybe that might be a basic slide just to have up at the beginning of my meeting to just kind of entertain and have everyone looking at the screen and get everyone comfortable. You can play videos in Zoom. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So you want to make sure that you hook your crowd really early. And you also want to try to be as interactive as possible. So, you know, Karen went through, you know, the best practices of getting everything started and set up, but give yourself some time to pause and ask questions. Generally, most of you, when you do your Zoom meetings, they're going to be a lot smaller scale than this. So for instance, we have 98 attendees on here. So we can't see 98 faces, and we may not necessarily want to unmute 98 people because that could be a real big disaster. So you want to make sure that you're able to utilize the chat, maybe pause, and, you know, let's make sure that no one has questions, no one's raising their hands. We're all paying attention to that. I know there's been, let's see, why does my toolbar only show chat and raise hand Q&A? I think because this is a webinar, it might look a little bit different and that reaction option might not be down there. I think some of you are noticing that. And that's probably because of the parameters that we have on this meeting to kind of keep it more controlled. Remember, when you're the host, you have to control the meeting. You've got to control that mute button. And you need to be able to control those features on the back end pretty quickly. Does anybody have any questions so far, or anything that they want to throw in the chat really quickly, and we can look for that? No, okay, we're looking good, guys. So we're going to be able to keep this really short. So also, I want everybody to know that Zoom has a really great user-friendly app. Download that. That is a great on-the-go app. But also know that a lot of users, when they're in Zoom meetings, are using it from a mobile device. So that's why your mute button is even more important than ever as an admin, because when people are in their cars, they're driving, they're in a parking lot that's honked horns and people talking or whatever. So you want to make sure that you're controlling that. But the app is super user-friendly. A little tip on the app: as soon as you open a Zoom meeting on your phone, your camera is right there staring at you. So if you're in the bathroom, guys, you may not want to go ahead and log into a Zoom meeting on your app. So, you know, there's a lot of things. You always want to make sure that, you know, when you're getting on one of these webinars or you're hosting a webinar, that you're ready and that you're in a safe place, and that you're protecting your privacy and you're not embarrassing yourself, because there is a lot of that out there. Let's see. So make sure you get the app. And then more than anything, and this is more of like a motivational, like, we're all trying to figure this out together. I really want everybody to cut themselves some slack on this, because technology is weird and we're all learning. And there's a lot, you know, I think we often hear in our world and in our industry, like, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. But I mean, we kind of are reinventing the wheel right now with this pandemic, and we're all having to jump out of our comfort zones and do things differently and re-innovate our industry. And so there's going to be a lot of ideas that come forward. And that kind of takes me into virtual branding. I think we're probably going to hear that term a lot more now, and how you're going to be able to brand yourself and brand your company. There's been a lot of creativity I've seen so far. I know virtual backgrounds have been super popular. You can see Susan Hinckley. She's got this really cool background that they created at HAA. Very pretty. I've seen some really funny ones. So there's definitely a lot of things that, you know, we can start thinking outside of the box. We've seen a lot of virtual happy hours. That's been a lot of fun and a good way for people to start connecting. I have in the past done virtual Secret Santas parties with companies where we all worked remote. And that was a big hit. So everybody start getting your juices going. And I would love for everyone to start sharing their ideas. If you can send those into HAA, Susan, me, whatever, I would love to get all of that compiled. And if you can think of anything, like, you know, we would love to hear that. If there's something in the chat that you want to share, that's fine. And then there's also some really good tools for branding. And, you know, everyone, it's so funny. I always have the little camera cover on my laptop. And those now are probably a bigger hit than ever because when you do log onto a Zoom meeting, that video can pop right up and you may not be ready, which is why I can do this. Very easy. Slide it back and forth. That way I can make sure that I'm ready to be seen when it's time. So if there's any other questions, if you have ideas, if it's time to get creative, it's time to reinvent the wheel and how we meet. And, you know, let's get together and make this fun and make it very productive.
Great. Can we address the question about virtual backgrounds, ladies?
Yes.
Did you, okay.
Yeah, so for virtual backgrounds, for instance, I use, and here's the other thing why you need to get to know Zoom and on your computer. I use a Mac, a lot of people use a PC. They can be very different. In order for me to do a virtual background on my computer, I need a green background, and, you know, unfortunately I don't have that. So I don't do a virtual background. I just try to make sure that my space is cleaned up for everybody. Was there any other particular question about the virtual background? Oh, how to set it up. Yes. So if you look to the left of your screen, the bottom left over there where it says stop video, and you click on the arrow to the right of that, you will see some options there, and you can choose a virtual background there. And then from there, you can choose things that are on your computer, things that you've downloaded specifically for that. But you should definitely get in there and play with that. You can have a lot of fun with it.
And also, looking at the virtual background, Deb mentioned having a green screen. If you don't have a solid background behind you, you're going to look like a 70s psychedelic person on your background. So,
so like if Susan's stuck in her chair right now, she will disappear like a ghost.
Well, the other thing is, at the original up at the top, you'll want to check those settings. And I'm jumping back up to the top of the screen. Oops. Right here under settings, you're going to want to go, and that's where you're going to go and pull up the parameters for your virtual background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I see another question. Can we use this to tour a prospect? I don't see why you can't. It's going to be different. I think maybe you're going to need to practice a little bit with that, because I would say my biggest concern would be, can you keep your camera and your tour, can you keep it straight for your end user? Like, what is it going to look like from them? Always think about what is it going to look like from their perspective, because you know, if you're just showing them a shaky tour on your phone, I mean, that's probably not going to do really well. But I do love that concept. I think that it will be something that we start seeing more of. And I think that's a really good jumping point, a good starting point for prospect tours if we want to, you know, start playing with this in Zoom and seeing how we can make it successful. Because I know there's a way. There's so much happening in Zoom, and Zoom is on top of their game right now. So they're changing and going as fast as they can. For instance, I mean, I get updates because I have a Mac. So anytime Zoom does something different, I have to update that on my Mac. Or, you know, if I don't do that prior to the meeting, I don't log in 15 minutes early, that could delay my meeting and kind of make it a little bit disastrous. Do any of you guys have any other questions? I see that Tina says she's learning Zoom, but already has her halo light. So she is going to be looking really pretty on her Zooms. I love that. I also, just for instance, and I'm not going to turn my video around and show you guys, but anytime I do a Zoom, I set my laptop on a box so that I kind of have that angle like we like when we take selfies where we're a little bit up higher. So, you know, set your computer up a little bit. There's a lot of little things that you can do, and lighting's important, obviously, Tina. Like I have my desk, it sets in front of a window, and so I have so that I have good light when I do virtual calls. Let's see, what about using 2 screens? My favorite, I'm using 2 screens now. If you are going to become a Zoomer, I highly recommend a second monitor. And the reason why I do that is I like to keep my chat and my video in front of me. And then I keep my notes and my screen share over to the left. And when I go into a screen share in a few minutes, I'll be able to choose this monitor over here to the left to show you the video that I'm going to show you at the end of this call. So trying to stay organized and kind of create a really good flow for your office is going to be really important for Zoom. I can't imagine that hosting Zooms on the go will be very effective. So be careful with that. That might be hard. But yes, 2 screens, definitely. I know Susan and Amanda at HAA, they have 2 screens, and I'm sure they use them like crazy now, especially in the Zoom world, because we usually have about, you know, most of us have about 20 tabs open on our computer at any point in time, and we don't want to close them. And so when Karen says, make sure that you close out all your other things for a Zoom call, that, you know, you can do that, or the external monitor is also a great choice. Can participants record a meeting? No, that will be a host feature. And then if the host wants to share the meeting, you know, depending on the meeting, they can send the video out for people to watch afterwards. Also, I like to, you know, make sure that at the end of this, we're going to do a follow-up. We're going to make sure that you guys get the handouts that you can print. Yep. We're going to do a couple of questions. We're going to show you how to poll. Like for instance, right now, we're going to show you that we can do a poll on here. So Susan, can you pop up our polling question?
Sure.
Our first question is, have any of you been on a really boring Zoom call? Maybe it's been torturous. You can do fun things like this on a Zoom that are actually very insightful for you and just for the meetings in general, for getting things done. This is very helpful. And then Susan would be able to post these results either right in front of us, or we can share them later. See, like right now, 59% of you have said yes, and 41 of, oh wow, I can't believe that seems to be pretty mixed. So I really expected the yes to be more like a 98%. But that's probably because I've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings over the past few years. So I look at it a little bit differently. But yeah, so there's several things that you can do. I hope this was a good starting point for you guys. And again, let's start thinking about some fun, new, exciting things, and maybe there can be another follow-up meeting to this with, you know, creative ideas on Zoom, you know, because this is going to be our new world. I mean, for a while anyway. So let's do it. Let's do a good job.
All right. Great, ladies and
gentlemen. Do you want to do a second poll?
Sure, we can do it.
Yes. Was this Zoom presentation helpful? We tried to keep it short and hit the basics, so I hope it was. No pressure, guys. No pressure.
All right.
We have some results, Susan?
Yes, ma'am. And here they are.
Woo!
Yay!
Woo!
Right.
Okay, who are the 4 that said not sure yet? Stephanie Graves? I'm just kidding. Just because I know she's on, I gotta pick at her. Okay, we have another question that came in. How do you keep people from talking over each other? Mute. You really do have to mute. And in a situation like with this webinar, it's gonna be chat only. There's 91 people on. There is no way we could unmute a crowd like this. The smaller your crowd, the better you are at having an unmuted call. But the only way to really keep that from happening is to make sure that you're either your host is muting your call, or you are asking people to mute their calls by themselves, basically, so that you can cut out that background noise. Because that is probably, I think, the biggest challenge with Zoom calls, and what a lot of people complain about are people talking over each other, and it's hard.
Well, and background noise too. So if they're taking it from a car.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So mute is your best friend. Mute is everyone's best friend in a lot of different ways. So you utilize the mute button. And, I mean, sometimes you probably wanted to mute some of those people before, and I'm just kidding. And now you can. I'm kidding, guys, but I hope this was helpful. If there's any follow-up questions, just get with Susan at HAA. We're happy to assist, reach out, whatever you guys need. I'm here to help anybody who wants to, get down to the nitty-gritty and do it.
Great.
And we're already seeing some people are wanting a 102. So send us your ideas of the things that you're wanting to learn how to use, and we will be glad to assist you. And Susan and Amanda will be sending this out, the handout out after we hang up.
That's correct. We will be. All right. Thanks so much, ladies. We really appreciate your time and all your great tips and information.
Okay.
I think Deb has our little goodbye.
Deb has a video.
All right. I'm going to do it. Give me 1 second here. Get my. Okay, guys, I have a funny video. Let's see, you cannot screen share. Well, okay. Who's sharing?
I'm sharing, so let me see if I can hand it over to you.
Mm-hmm.
How do let me just hit stop share.
Yeah. All right, here I am. As you all know, can you see my screen?
Yes.
There's a lot of really funny things on the internet right now, and you've seen them all, but I saw this one last week, and it just made me chuckle because at the end of every Zoom meeting, I feel like this is exactly what happens. So you guys enjoy.
Well, goodbye. Enjoy yourself. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.